Alright dudes, I'm going to show you guys where you can grind in East Origin. This game is awesome, but sometimes there are a couple of spots where you need to grind either SP crystals or even levels to get through some of those mid bosses or even the freaking floor bosses. So I'm going to show you a couple of spots that I found that were really helpful, and I'm going to share them with you guys. Alright, so the first place that I found that was actually really useful was in what I like to call the Water Temple. In Flooded Prison 2, there's an area near a waterfall where there are a bunch of slime enemies. What you want to do is you want to go back and forth between this area and the next where the waterfall is. Because the slime enemies, not only do they divide sometimes, which gives you more enemies with equal amount of experience and SP crystals, but they're right next to the zone. So you want to go back and forth between this area and kill all the slimes. And if you want, you can kill the giant enemies here too. But if you're looking for a little bit of SP and AXP, then this is a pretty decent area before the boss fight, the mid boss fight that you can grind in. So the next area where you can grind a good amount of EXP and SP crystals is right before the Arthropod's chamber. What you want to do is you want to go between the hallway and the chamber where you found the rue. In this room between them, you're gonna find a bunch of enemies that you can kill pretty easily, and you want to just keep going back and forth between these two hallways and kill all the enemies that you find here. It might be a little bit difficult because they like to spread their green goo everywhere and you might slip around back and forth, but if you just keep going between these two hallways, these groups of enemies give you good amount of SP crystals and a good amount of EXP. So if you need to grind before the Arthropod, if you're having trouble with that guy, this is probably the best place for you to grind. When you get to the Silent Sands, aka the Sand Temple, what I like to call it, so if you go into this room, you're going to see a bunch of the orange slime surrounded by a bunch of annoying mage-like enemies. But if you just kill these enemies, they give you good amounts of SP and EXP. What you want to do is you just go back and forth between the save point and this room, kill the jellies because they'll multiply and give you just great amounts of what you need. And if you spend a little bit of time here, you're gonna get a good head start on this area, because there's a couple of enemies later on that are a little annoying and they're small and they're a pain in the ass, and you're gonna be glad that you just grinded a little bit at the beginning here. Now, if you're having trouble with the creeper, aka the Sarlacc in the Silent Sands, you might want to grind a little bit in the room just before his boss door. There's a bunch of enemies here surrounded by the freaking pillars of spikes that like to be annoying. But what you want to do is you just want to gather all the enemies up and then do any one of your skills that does the best AoE. And you can do this a couple of times and you'll get a good amount of EXP and SP crystals, and you'll be ready for that Sarlacc bastard in just about 10 minutes. When you get to the Blighted Blood, which I like to call the Blood Temple, there's a good spot to grind just at the end of the hallway where you find the first save point. What you want to do is you want to get to where there's a bunch of these goblin-like enemies that's next to a room that has these 3 Hulkbuster-like enemies. And what you can do is you can go back and forth between these 2 rooms and kill the enemies there. I personally like to kill just the big giant the Hulkbuster-like enemies, because there's just 3 of them and you kill them pretty fast and you can just zone. Whereas if you go and kill the goblins, you have to gather them up, and then you have to spam your best AoE move and kill them. Both are equally good. It's preference. If you like to gather up the enemies, you can, but I like to go and kill the 3 enemies in the small room where it's a little bit quicker and you get about the same amount of EXP and SP crystals. And last but not least, the best place to grind in East Origin is in the Demonic Core. In this place, you're going to find a bunch of slime enemies next to each other near an exit that you're just going to go crazy on. If you spend an hour killing these slimes, you're going to get probably about 1,000,000 SP as well as a good amount of EXP. All you got to do is just hang out in this area and go back and forth between the exit, and you're just going to be able to buy everything you need to finish off the final boss. Alright dudes, those are the places that I found that are the best for grinding in East Origins. I hope you guys found it useful, and happy grinding.